All right, it's good afternoon, Ghana. You're welcome to the program. And what's on our table today has to do with the management of the COVID finances. So it has been debatable at some point in Parliament where minority has called on government to come and account for monies that came in during the COVID pandemic fight. The majority side sort of also put up a defense or a fight and said that there are institutions that are responsible for that. And they do not see why Parliament should take it up as an extra, support, as extra work on their hands to be the ones to investigate how finances that came in during the COVID period was used or were used. Just a few days ago, we also had a leak of an MPP official in Sagnarigu who made certain allegations. And the allegations were pointing to the fact that some monies were given to her, and these monies were coming from the COVID funds that came in. So far, we haven't had an official response to it from the central government, but minority side in Parliament have also jumped to this audio making rounds saying that this audio points to the fact that we have been vindicated and that we've accused the government of, misusing the COVID funds. And she has just confirmed in the audio that we all may have heard. We'll play the video later on. But we've also had one of the MPP gurus outside the country now, Kennedy Arthur, who has also spoken to the COVID funds management of it and has supported or thrown his weight behind the support of investigating how the COVID funds were used. How are we putting all this together, and how are we going to manage all the opinions and information that is coming across? So on that note, we'll be having a conversation with some of the persons who are connected to the issue. But Wanda Madilo is a development analyst. He's with the NDC. We'll have a conversation with him. Professor Lord Mensah, senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, will speak to us. And we also have Kweku Kwating, that is also chairman for the Finance Committee in Parliament, to speak to us on this development. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll get underway talks. Welcome back to the program. This is Good Afternoon, Ghana. I already have Wanda Madilo, who is a development analyst. He's joined me in the studio. We'll be joined by Professor Lord Mensah later on via Zoom, and also Kweku Kwating, who is the chairman of the Finance Committee in Parliament. As when he joins us, he will come into the discussion. Wanda, you're welcome. Good afternoon to you.
It's a very good afternoon to all your viewers. It's been a privilege, as always, to be in the studio. And so I love that privilege. And I want to say thank you very much for that privilege.
Right. We also appreciate that when we call you, you quickly run into the studio. Sometimes it can be very inconvenient, but thank you.
Well, it's just duty call, so it's all right.
Great.
We can manage.
Great. How much are you buying tomato? 3 balls of tomato or 2 balls of tomato now?
Well, the evidence is out there, and we all know what is happening. Economy, if it was in any developed world, would have been calling for some emergency support from the outside world. But we'll still see what happens in the process, because I know that things have become very difficult for Ghanaians, and it's likely to continue because we don't see any hope, we don't see any concrete plan, and we don't see any commitment by government to any cost whatsoever to alleviate the pain of Ghanaians over the period. And all this is because of their own doing. The reckless spending is one, the wanton disrespect for anybody's view is another, and then the arrogance, to which the arrogance of power And then finally, the speed with which they are amassing wealth for themselves, as evidence in Sir John's will, can tell us that something is wrong with this government, especially when you have a government that boasts of having the men, having the economic gurus, and all that, and yet you have these levels of decadence in our governance structure, in our economy, in even media freedom, and all the facets of life. You can expect that things are going to get really bad for us. We hope that something comes true for us. If not, we are going down.
Well, do I have my other guests on Zoom? I mean, if they do. Okay, so let's go on the issue this way. I'll start off with Felicia Tete's, account she gave in that audio. She actually spoke on radio, so it was caught on audio, and we put pictures to it just to put it in video form so that those who are on TV can also appreciate it. So she actually, she is a vice chair for the MPP and the MCE for Sagnarigu. That's Felicia Tete, who spoke on radio mentioning how the constituency executives were giving COVID funds and some pressures were coming on her, even though she gave the whole money that was given to her, that's 100,000 Ghana cedis, to the constituency. Let's take a listen.
The COVID fund came. I was given 50,000. Oh. My quota was 50,000 as a regional second vice. Then, who doubles as a parliamentary candidate for Sanargu, I had another 50,000 cedis, making it 100,000. Then the constituency were given, is it 200,000 or so? I can't remember. So I called for, and MCE was giving 30,000. I can't remember. Then Chairman was giving 20,000, and I think the other executives, is it 10,000, or was it Chairman was giving 10,000? But I can't remember. So I called them to a meeting. I called the constituency executive to a meeting. And I told them that, fine, for me, I am going to add all the 100,000 that I am entitled to the constituency. Listen, I am handing over all my 100,000 to the constituency money. I didn't ask any executive to add his money to what I was going to give to the women. I handed over the forms and everybody to the team, and we went round and we did the disbursement. The next step was, I have taken police station executives' money and I want to spend that money. My 100,000, not even one that I filled for somebody in my house. Not even one that I filled for a member of my team. Secretary, Karamba, Polo, Chairman, they were in charge. After that, their form and everything was not given to me. They sent it straight to regional secretary, and regional secretary sent it to Accra directly. So my brothers, where did I spend the money? When I even added everything, not even a peso I took from it. What kind of propaganda is this? What kind of propaganda is this? So please, let's learn to tell each other the truth. You may not like me, but when you are talking about the things I have done, talk about the truth. If you respond with lies, I will come back and counter, because I will not keep quiet. It is only a dead body that you can lie on. I will not keep quiet to say that, oh, a leader there, you don't have to talk. A leader there, you don't have to talk. A leader, you don't have to talk, and somebody is always destroying you. I will talk. I will talk and I explain to the level-headed people on the platform.
Alrighty, you're welcome back. I've just been wondering, under what pressure was she that made her burst out the way she did? But she seemed to have put some information across that is important, and other agencies probably need, that information she has put out so that they can actually use it for further investigation. So also in Parliament, we have Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bopping, who has directed the Minister of Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, to appear before the House to account for that, the COVID-19 related expenditure. And according to him, Parliament will not approve the 75 million euro loan which the Finance Minister has placed for approval until the Finance Minister himself lifts the lid on the previous COVID-19 funds that government actually got. So that's the reports of that as well.
From the interventions of members, I see that there is the unwillingness of members to go with the committee until the monies that have been expended on COVID-19 are accounted for. In principle, from the contributions, members are not against getting such as described by the ranking member for the committee, cheap money. But first, account for what has been given to you before we go ahead to even approve the cheap money. We are not happy and will not support government to go in for domestic loan where it will be more expensive. We are prepared to support government to go in for such cheap money. But could you kindly tell us how you have utilized what we have approved? Honorable members, the people of Ghana have been blaming executive arm of government for some of these things. I think it is Parliament that should be blamed, not the executive. Well, we have all it takes to make sure that the right thing is done. It's Parliament that is weak and reneging on its duties and functions. And so I will complete my submission by directing that the Minister of Finance should appear before this House and account for all the money that we approve for the utilization for COVID pandemic. It is only then and only after that that this motion may find expression on the floor again to approve or disapprove by this House. I so direct.
All right, you're welcome back. Now, let's give you maybe the last video, and then I'll come to the guests. We also have the minority in Parliament that says that it has been vindicated of allegations it made that the COVID monies were misused by officials of the Akufo-Addo administration. Speaking at the press conference in Parliament, we also had in Accra the minority leader Haruna Idrisu that also says that the voice of the MC for Sagnarigu has confirmed every allegation that he puts out. Let's have that.
Who is publicly reported to have said that COVID monies were shared amongst party leadership, constituencies regional, and for my purposes, I add national. That, in fact, makes our call for an eminent investigation of the highly anomalous COVID expenditure spending to be probed by Parliament or by the Auditor General, or if President Nana Addo Dankwa has any respect for the tenets and values of accountability and transparency, to authorize a public probe inquiry into how the over 19 billion COVID monies were disbursed and utilized.
Now let me come back into the studio. I have Prof. Lord Mensah joining us via Zoom. Prof, you're welcome. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. And,
Okay,
good afternoon to our
okay,
viewers.
Kani, all right, thank you so much. Kani and Meek, okay, all right. So I also have Wanda Madilo with me. Wanda, you're welcome once again. So we have, I said Kweku Kwatin was joining us, and for some reason he's not picking up, but we'll leave it there and still continue with the discussion. So, Madina, I'll let you go first. Yeah.
Okay. Annie, the revelation by Mrs. or Miss Tete J or whatever, AJ Tete.
Well,
Felicia.
we have only captured her name officially as Felicia Tete. Whether she's Mrs. or I cannot check.
Okay, so the revelations by Felicia has confirmed the long-standing position of Ghanaians on the abuse, the reckless and wanton abuse, or if you want to say thievery, of funds that were supposed to be used for COVID. And I'm going to take you through some figures for you to understand what the woman actually said. Maybe people just thought, oh, how much is 50,000? How much is 100,000? It's no money to the state and all that. But if you look at the numbers, for instance, she said that she took 50,000 as vice chairman. Now, how many regional executives does the MPP have? 10. Let's agree that the 50,000 was for each of them. So they have 10 per region, and then we have 16 regions. That alone counts to 8 million. Then you talk about the fact that she said she took 50,000 as PC. We have 275 constituencies. So 50,000 by 275, you're going to get some 13.75 million. Then you go into somebody taking 200,000. She said 200,000 for the constituency. Again, we have 275 constituencies. That will come up to some 55 million. Then you go to the MC. She said the MCs took 30,000, 30K. We have 261 district municipal assemblies in this country. So times 261, you get another 7.3 million. Then you go to 20,000 for constituency chairman. That again is 275 across the country, and that will be 5.5 million. You go to the 10 other executives, because they have 10 executives per constituency. So if one took the 10,000, we calculate 20,000, the others took 10,000, that again will come up to 24 million. In fact, if we put all the figures up, within the MPP, the thievery and the stealing of state resources alone comes up to about 250 million Ghana cedis within COVID expenditure. And you wonder, because during COVID, the MPP government is the only government.
But you cannot conclude that it's plain thievery because...
I say it's plain thievery because the woman was very plain.
Yeah, but if monies were given to them from COVID...
For what?
From the COVID fund.
Yes.
Maybe it was for a COVID project or a COVID activity.
Can I be clear on myself on the issue here? How does state funds find their way into the pockets of individuals, party apparatchiks, party activists, party faithfuls, and then you call that public expenditure? Is that the definition of a public officer or civil servant?
Who probably are supposed to be carrying out the COVID exercises that we've been doing?
I don't get it. Do we have a structure in this country? There's the Ghana Health Service that was in charge of this business. There is Nuguchi that was also involved. There is the hospitals like the Ghana East Municipal Hospital that were involved. There is, for instance, the Kolebu was also involved in this matter. Then the Shai Osudoku Hospital was also established for some of those purposes, including the Ridge Hospital. At what point did the MPP, even the 138 hospital that they promised, not one was delivered? So at what point did public servants who are supposed to execute government agenda become MPP apparatchiks? Of what role is a PC, parliamentary candidate, in the disbursement of government funds? And we have stayed on this for a while. And I'm going to give you, do you know that within the COVID period, okay, government alone has accrued minus the COVID levy, okay? To date, government is charging 1% COVID levy on all tax elements that we pay in this country. Minus that, all the revenue streams that have come to government is equaling to about 37 billion Ghana cedis. And I can go through it for you. For instance, they took 1 billion from the IMF. Mm-hmm. That alone is equal to 8 billion Ghana cedis. Then they went to the stabilization fund and took 200 from the $1 million from the stabilization fund. That is 1.6 billion Ghana cedis. Then they went for 450 from the World Bank. That is 3.4 billion Ghana cedis. Then they went to 400 million out of the 1 billion from the SDR from the Bank of Ghana, which is the SDR is actually a special drawing right from the Bank
Bank
of
of
Ghana. They took another 100 million from the African Development Bank, also dollars. That's 800 million Ghana cedis. They took another 20 billion from Bank of Ghana. Then they took COVID levy 1%. Then all the inflows of donations. The American embassy alone donated vaccines to the tune of 26.5 million US dollars. The German government gave us 1.5 million COVID vaccines. And many others, Alibaba and Co. and the many individuals that have donated. If you aggregate these figures, that is some whopping 37 billion Ghana cedis within the COVID period of 2020. And yet our economy grew 0.4%. This is the recklessness we are talking about. Now, how do you, for instance, the finance minister has been running all over the place, including the vice president, including the senior minister, including the president himself, that this economy has been ravaged by COVID because the challenges we're seeing in the economy is as a result of COVID.
Yeah, but you know,
And yet,
Nanado has stated at a program that Ghana spent 17.7 billion cedis containing the COVID.
So where is the balance? 17. If you spend 17 and you had 37 billion, you should be having some 20 billion out there. They are still begging and looking for money. But finance ministry is in parliament right now asking for how much? 75 million euros or dollars, whatever. Right now as we speak. Which the money is not there. They've spent the money. They've spent the money. And that's the worrying trend for all of us. See, I don't want you to draw too much into some of these things. You see, in 2020, when we read our budget, we had only a 12 billion projection by government itself as revenue gap that is supposed to be filled up. Granted, that was even the case, and you have a shortfall of 37 billion. Don't forget, this 37 billion is not part of any budgetary allocations at the time. This is free money coming into the economy at that period. Now we know that all those monies ended up at Pito bars, ended at drinking spots, ended up at chop bars, ended up in the pockets of girlfriends and boyfriends.
Oh, how?
Now, listen to us very carefully. The so-called former forestry commissioner, may his soul rest in peace, Sir John.
He is the former forestry commissioner.
I want to believe that he was. If he was and he had the interest of Ghanaians, he wouldn't do the kind of things he did. If you look at his will, almost all the properties he acquired was from 2017. When was he appointed? In fact, from the will, we can conclude that somebody like Sir John was a pauper at the time he became a forestry commissioner. By the time he left office, I haven't seen any one of the will that is dated before
but pauper would
his
not
2016.
be a very unfair.
What else can I say?
Okay, hold on. Let me go to Professor Lord Mensah, who is a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. Prof, thank you for your time. Good afternoon to you. I'm sure you've taken a good listen to the audio by Felicia Tete.
Not yet. I've not seen any social media video of that sort. I've not yet seen anything of that sort.
So you have not picked information even that she's made claims of how much she got from the COVID funds, and I'm sure, like I said earlier, maybe she was speaking out of pressure that was being poured on her, so she had to come out sort of to defend herself. Will that, maybe my producer can send it to you later, you can take a good listen to it, but will that help in any way if Ghana is indeed interested in investigating the COVID funds management itself?
Yeah, I think for accountability purposes, because Ghana, we have all the acts, all the laws that governs our expenditure. And for the laws, the direction of accountability is clear. If you spend, you must account for it. Now, accounting for expenditure, we shouldn't look at it as a punishment, or we shouldn't look at it as something that will put maybe a particular regime at a disadvantage or something. But to me, I think accountability is a form of disclosure. And if you want people to trust you, trust your management, most of the time you open up, you get to know, you let the people know exactly what is happening in your government. But if, the call for accountability falls on deaf ears, then it tells you that something is happening. So for me, I think we may have to look at this carefully and then understand the essence of accountability. The reason why we have the Public Financial Management Act, which ensures that, at each point in time, public officials, responsible officials are accounted to the people. Now, when you open up and you disclose, to some extent, it has impact on how you even, assess funds, how you even borrow from the international market, because transparency is a destination of every investment. But if it turns up that the little that you are getting for the purpose of crisis, we don't want to account for it, then it becomes a problem. So from where I sit, there's a reason why, it is good to be accountable. Apart from, political reasons, there are genuine reasons. Which one of them is for trust. And once trust is built up, everything that you need, you can get it. So effectively, I think it's good to account for it. And the cause for minority in parliament, is not something that we should overlook.
But it's almost impossible, for the government of the day to think that the minority is coming from a genuine position. It's very easy to just draw partisan politics into their demands.
Yeah, well, that's very true. That is what we've been living all this while, and the country has been deteriorating every now and then. We seem to align politics to genuine concerns. We have to be careful how we go about it, because what I understand from where I sit is that anytime you account, you're more or less giving more information. And the space, which is the economic space and the financial space we all operating at, are spaces that need transparency. And that is why we have laws that governs, disclosure and all those. So I don't understand why, to some extent, the public sector accountability, becomes a problem. If you're an official and you know very well that you have nothing to hide, I think you should go for, that accountability. But it's unfortunate we have aligned, genuine concerns that people raise most of the time to, politics. And that is a cause to worry. And that has even built up into how we manage the economy with our egos and all this. So I think we need to, really look into some of these things.
Is this government continuously shutting the door to transparency? Because there was a point when COVID, donations were coming in. It was being done at the Information Ministry. And every time any organization came, it was open to the press. We could see what each company or organization was bringing in. And then at some point, it was moved from the Information Ministry to the presidency. Whether or not even donations have stopped coming in for now, I cannot put, any confirmation to it, because I do not know. And we don't know also those local donations that were coming in. Right now, we've not been updated, so we don't, it's really bare. We don't know exactly how much came in as far as local donations, were concerned. We've had persons like Arthur Kennedy also adding his voice. Must the government be putting himself in such a position that almost everybody must be calling for transparency before it's, what's the difficulty?
Well, I think maybe government is also coming from a perspective. If you look into the 2021 budget, clearly some COVID expenditure related outlines were given in this budget. And as to whether the government may want to hit to every call that, come up to ask for expenditure on COVID. If you go into the budget, clearly you will see some expenditure related lines, but the details were not provided. But as a government, which we also have what we call a Freedom of Information Bill, obviously, if someone calls for more information on your expenditure, I think you shouldn't have a problem with it, because the laws, allows you to do that. The laws mandate or forces you to do that. So I don't know which part of the laws that will indicate that if you don't disclose, these are the possible, punitive measures that are in place as a government. And so that is what possibly, the government is taking advantage of. But disclosure in itself, apart from the laws, it makes financial sense to disclose. But when you disclose, you attract more. because people get to know what you use their money for, whether you use it for the purpose, intended purpose, or you use it for a different purpose. So effectively, and if you use it for a different purpose, you have to justify why you use it for that purpose. So it helps you to attract more funding and then going forward. But when it happens like that and you close up, the next time you are in crisis and you are looking for funding, people will not help you because at the end of the day, they know that when the money comes in, you might not necessarily use it for the purpose that you intend to use it for.
Would it be fair for people to conclude that the government has deceived them? Because if it has to take a legal framework to get the government to be transparent, then the government itself.
It will be too early to say that you have been deceived until you get to know the details on how the expenditure is, the expenditure took place. Because the fact that somebody is holding up with information does not necessarily mean that there was a misappropriation or appropriation. Until the person comes to account for it, you cannot hold up the person to say that.
But you have said that when you allow for transparency, it builds trust, and in this case, it's looking as though.
Yeah, but that's a genuine case. That's a genuine case. If you build up transparency, obviously it opens up for more inflows, and that's a theory. I mean, and it underpins empirics and everything. So effectively, yes, if you open up, you're going to attract more. That's the sense.
So, if government decides that it is not going to account, what will the people of Ghana do? Because remember, even already with this COVID case,
that is where I have problem with the PFM Act, which does not indicate, the possible measures you have to put in place if, an official decides not to disclose. And so I think we may have to revisit, the act and then look at some of the possible things that we can insert and then ensure that, whoever is not disclosing will be liable. That is what we need to look at.
But that won't be an immediate solution to the current situation.
Of course, every happening brings about a lesson, and once we are learning from the processes and the dynamics, I mean, this gives us a clue that there's a gap that we need to fill, and it becomes part of the learning process. And once we close it, I mean, future unnecessary expenditures will be protected in that regard.
Prof, thank you for your time, Prof. Lord Mensah.
All right.
Right, thank you so much.
You can do much.
Right, he's a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. It is just looking to me as though everything we need a legal framework. I mean, can we get to a point where a leader can just decide that, okay, I'm using my willpower as a leader to account to the people and not necessarily force yourself to be put in a legal bracket, sort of, but I don't know. That's my opinion. I can.
When you steal, that's what happens. I mean, you want to cover up. And this is
but you keep using stealing, and that's what he said. That the fact that I haven't account.
No. Hold on.
We
don't need to beg.
Conclude that
maybe Prof may not understand the gravity of the impact of COVID on the lives of Ghanaians, and you will observe
that will also not be fair to him. Because
I'm not. That's not an insult. But I'm saying
I think he appreciates the impact.
To the extent that public funds of 37 billion cannot be accounted, then what else can be accounted for? We have had a government that has claimed that COVID is the reason for all the mess in this economy as we speak now. In fact, they left off Jomahama and now it is COVID or Ukraine. And that has been the mantra. Vice President, President himself, Senior Minister, all the economic team, the Finance Minister himself, everybody. Today you are given a platform. Come and tell us how those funds you got were disbursed. 1. 2, which areas they were disbursed into. 3, what impact they had on the economy. And you are running away. I thought that was the basis for the troubles we're having today. So if that is the basis, nobody needs to beg the MPP government to account for an expenditure. I mean, this is public funds. This is not funds from somebody's pocket. People went to jail for just how much? 1 million Ghana cedis. And you're talking about billions. And yet we have to beg And now somebody tells us that, some legal ramification because I didn't present doesn't mean that I am not liable and all that. What else could it be? We have maintained that the distribution of public funds within the MPP government and how they have handled the economy all this while points to one direction. And the only direction it points to is corruption. We have seen several cases in the past and how issues have been handled in the past. Now, how do you explain this? And you tell me, and I want to maybe go after the media a little. How do you explain this? We all were boxed into some crisis for a period. This country went in lockdown for only 3 weeks, not 1 year, not 2 years. Ghana is not the only country that went into COVID. Check Liberia, check Sierra Leone, check just Ivory Coast here. You will observe that they are not going through the kind of economic crisis we are going through today. You will also observe that even though they didn't get the kind of support, 37 billion, to man their economy, they are not growing at 4.4%. They are robust enough. They are doing well.
But they're not starting.
Their inflation is not at 23%.
They're not starting free SHS. They're not doing.
You see,
for food and jobs.
That's the mistake. That's the mistake.
One district, one factory.
In 2020, schools were locked down. So the MPP spent no money on COVID. On free SHS. So that can be an excuse as well. Schools were locked down for 1 whole year. All our children were home for 1 whole year. So you can't talk about free SHS on that day or within that period. So there has been reckless spending. People have taken state money into their pocket. Otherwise, why run away from giving COVID expenditures? Now, we are told that, okay, there are some agencies and departments that should be held responsible for some of those expenditures. Those agencies and departments don't come to Parliament to request to spend our money. They are done on behalf of them by the finance minister as a monitoring agency or monitoring or supervisory ministry over all those agencies and departments. Today, all of a sudden, the supervisory role, all of a sudden, the monitoring role, all of a sudden, the guardian role is lost on the finance ministry. Some time ago, when we asked them to give details of expenditure on the flying of a private jet, they gave all kinds of reasons, and that it was a security reason and all that. The only law in this country that forbids us from discussing public expenditure in the public domain is security matters. Even that one is varies, depending on the sensitivity of the issue to be discussed. It can be discussed in conclave and all that. So what is this business about spending my money? Give me evidence of the expenditure and you cannot produce it. It is because the money went into private pockets. Today, we don't need the finance minister to tell us anything any longer. Why? Because Felicia, their PC, has told us how the money was spent. The money went into private pockets. It went into chop bars. It went into pito joints. It went into the hands of individuals. And government money has been shared, just like any other things that they share in the past, including lands, have been shared amongst them. And that is where there is a difficulty to give evidence on this expenditure. Now, you hear some of these stories. Oh, we had this enterprise support. We supported some people. We gave food to people on the street and all that. And I keep saying that during COVID lockdown, it is not everybody that was indoors. By the grace of God, within that period, I was working because they had given exemptions to some category of Ghanaians. And I was part of those categories. I was on the street of Accra. I did not collect 1 pack of rice. Talk less of all the things they talk about. Not one nose mask was given to me free. You saw the level of donations that individuals did. And you know what? Individuals in this country, the private sector-led fund, relief fund, actually built a 100-seater hospital in this country in record 3 months. That the Ghana Infectious Disease Center was built by the private sector within 3 months. Yet a government that is taking money for COVID. Since COVID came to an end in 2020, 2021 till date, we have been paying 1% levy. Even that one, there is no accountability. Must we beg a government to give us, to be accountable to us for spending our money? Agenda 8888 was a response to COVID, one of the rash response by the president to COVID. To date, not one of those hospitals have been commissioned. How many years down the line? The president has escalated it to Agenda 111. Where is it? I would have thought, I brought something to the studio if they can give it to me. Let me give you an evidence. I would have thought that within this
Can you?
period,
Okay, can you
Within-
give it to him?
within this period, because it's a health matter, you would have thought that for any government that is
No, you
sensitive
bring it.
and understandable to the challenges of this economy will invest heavily in the health sector. Today, NHIS is complaining. They have nothing to show. NHIS is in arrears for how many months, how many weeks, how many days,
Okay,
and how many
let me
months.
announce what's that you have in the
No, I'm going to show you.
before you sprung a surprise on me
No,
today.
it's not a surprise. I'm going to show you how the government has failed in managing this economy. For even a class 1 student, you will know that COVID is a health crisis. And there are some drugs within the COVID environment that we could actually be able to cushion people for. For instance, I hold in my hand Amoxiclav. Amoxiclav was sold before COVID for just 15 Ghana cedis.
You've covered it.
Yes, I've covered it because I don't want
all right.
any. Amoxiclav was sold for how much? How much? 15 Ghana cedis before
don't know.
COVID. Today it's being sold for 50 Ghana cedis. For the 1,000 milligram.
Before COVID, it was
Before
15
COVID, it was just
cedis.
15 Ghana cedis.
And now it's how much?
It's now 45.50. You'll find in some pharmacies even 60. Look at this. And we are told that it is to boost our immune system. If government can invest in this, what else are you going to be invested in? Then I have here a blood tonic, Totima. Totima, some few weeks or months ago, was sold for how much? 50 Ghana cedis. Today, go on the market, it's sold for 90 Ghana cedis, 95 Ghana cedis. How do we afford this? Where are the monies? Can't you invest in these little things to cushion Ghanaians? Even condom. Yeah, condom, just so we don't give us so much and burden the economy and all the pressures of it. Condom today is sold for how much? 12 Ghana cedis. How much was it before? Condom, just to protect Ghanaians themselves from diseases and from giving birth, recklessly. Paracetamol, how much is it today? So you have a government that is reckless, that has no listening to this public, that is arrogant, that is committed to stealing the state resources. And yet people want us to clap for them, people want us to celebrate them, people want us to look as if, they have done something unique. If some years ago, or some 2 years ago, I used to change my dollar for 3 cedis, and today I'm changing for 8 cedis, did I go or I came? So I beg you, let's situate this debate very well. And let nobody tell me that, well, because the government didn't give, figures, didn't mean that they have not stolen. If you haven't, come out with the figures.
We will be back. Let me just put it on record that the Honourable Member of Parliament, Kweku Kwarteng, agreed to speak with us, but all efforts to reach him has been unsuccessful. We'll go for a breather. We'll be back. Someone has texted me asking me some question about the stuff you were displaying. But because you didn't display the brand of the condom, I can't say much.
No, don't say much. If you can ask what brand is it, I'll make sure.
You're welcome back to Good Afternoon, Ghana. Minta Kando is a ranking member on the Health Committee in Parliament. He's joined us via Zoom or phone. Okay, all right. Honourable Member, thank you so much for your time. You're welcome to Good Afternoon, Ghana. Hello, sir.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. We're grateful. Let me find out what is the difficulty, summoning the finance minister to come and give the accounts in Parliament, as you earlier on called for. And I'm referring to the COVID funds.
Yeah, I think that we started making this point, some few months ago, and during the beginning of our call, we actually filed a motion to set up a bipartisan committee to probe into the entire expenditure of COVID-19. This is what we did, but knowing that after that time, we were not aware that every parliamentary candidate of the MPP benefited from that particular loot. And so we didn't understand why the members of parliament on the MPP side, including the first deputy speaker, put up a spirited effort to prevent us from constituting that bipartisan committee. And so the first deputy speaker prevented us from constituting the committee. He threw our motion off. Procedurally, it was wrong, but he insisted on that. And so the Speaker of Parliament, Right Honorable Abansman Babin, has also indicated that the minister responsible for finance should appear to come and account for the COVID expenditure before any further could be granted to them. But on a more serious note, and I keep saying in this country that as a ranking member on the Parliamentary Select Committee on Health, I do not want to be vindicated, because anytime I'm vindicated, it causes a lot of harm to the country. Now, can you imagine that you have a regional executive member of the ruling party saying that they distributed the money right from the polling station to the national level? Ask yourself, how many executive members do they have at each polling station? How many polling stations do they have in the whole country? At least we have 275 constituencies. How many constituency executives do they have? You multiply it. Multiply that amount also by the number of parliamentary candidates you have, which is about 275. Okay? Multiplied by the number of regions we have, about 16. So, I mean, you can imagine how they dissipated that particular, COVID fund, and nobody has accounted for a peso with regard to that, especially when the president, the vice president, and the finance minister are giving conflicting figures as to the amount that has been spent with regards to COVID.
Right. How are you, how do you consider this as the seriousness of this, considering, the Felicia Tete's outburst, considering the fact that you are even already describing it as looting, even before you got to hear of Felicia's audio?
So Felicia's audio is a vindication of our position, and we think that it's even a tip of the iceberg. We can get to the bottom of this matter when a proper bipartisan committee is constituted, just like the Sputnik probe, so that all the facts could be brought bare. It's rather unfortunate that it has fallen on Felicia, but that is the truth. She was speaking nothing but the truth. And so that is exactly what happened.
It may not be the truth.
I am telling you that is the truth. There's no way anybody in his or her right senses will lie about his own political party, especially in government. And I'm telling you that we have a lot of information and facts that we are waiting for this probe, and we will bring them out. We contested elections in the various constituencies. At some point in time, people were made to register to get TIN numbers, and you'll be there and you hear your phone beeping, only to realize that some amount of money has been sent to you during the 2020 elections. These happen in the various constituencies, unless we don't want to speak the truth. Can you imagine that people appeared before the minister responsible for health, appeared before us and told us that he had spent 35 million Ghana cedis in a matter of 5 months for organizing meetings and seminars? And documents were brought to us that nose masks and hand sanitizers cost them about 400 million in a matter of 6 months. Can you imagine? And the minister responsible for health, when he got COVID, the COVID that people couldn't get oxygen, and due to that they died. COVID that because we didn't have strong health facilities, people lost their lives. When he got COVID, he flew out of the country and attended one of the best hospitals in the whole world. And then you sit and disburse money that are meant to fight this pandemic. Anyhow, you give it to your cronies, your girlfriends, your friends, your party people, and you leave people to die avoidable death. God will never forgive you. You can get all the money in this world. You can get all the money and you can buy every shoe in this world, but you can never wear shoe. God will never forgive you. This is issues about health. People are losing their lives. We spent not less than 25 billion. Meanwhile, we couldn't even build a laboratory at the Kotoka International Airport, our #1 international airport, and we allowed a Nigerian to establish something like that, something in the nature of laboratory, and duped this country.
Wow.
It's quite unfortunate.
Honorable member, I expect my my producer to give you a call because he intends to engage you further, maybe later. So I'm sure he will call you back. Thank you for your time. We will have to, pause here with Honorable Kwabena Minta-Akanda, who is a ranking member of the Health Committee. And my time is up, but I think that we can have a conversation.
We know how the money has been spent. We know the government has been reckless. We know that they never cared for Ghanaians. They never cared for the interests of the public first. And that's why the economy is in a mess. Today, what's the inflation rate? What's the exchange rate?
Right.
What's the TB rate? Everything is in a mess.
is a development analyst and a member of the NDC as well. Let me also repeat that a member of the MPP, Kweku Kwatin, could not join us because he didn't pick up his call. This has been Good Afternoon, Ghana. We'll look forward to how this matter will go. Thanks for watching.